Huh. They didn't expect your name to weigh this much. They thought it would slide across their desks like every other name, light, forgettable, destined to dissolve into paperwork and digital archives. Instead, the file hit like a weapon. It spread across screens and desktops like a living thing, expanding with every search, refusing to shrink into a profile they could understand. Agents who'd handled cartel leaders, defectors, and black ops operatives found themselves unsettled, reading through your life like a coded manuscript, every line revealing something that contradicted the last. There was no neat biography, no linear trail, no obvious intent. The deeper they went, the more the pages felt like a trap. They weren't looking at data anymore. They were staring into a force moving through the world, leaving impressions that rewrote what surveillance even meant. Your travel records looked like they'd been plotted by a strategist with decades of foresight. Airports, seaports, remote towns, high-security zones. Each destination appeared random until viewed from a higher angle. Then patterns emerged, but not patterns that belonged to ordinary people. Patterns of leverage, timing, and precision. People you'd spoken to years ago ended up in positions of influence. Places you'd visited quietly became flashpoints months later. Words you'd spoken in private turned up in declassified briefings. The team assigned to you couldn't decide whether they were reading a history or a prophecy. Every detail they pinned to a corkboard dissolved into a bigger question. They went from curious to compelled. One morning, a directive landed on a desk with a seal most of them had never seen before. It wasn't a request. It was an order. Watch closely. The phrasing was clinical, but everyone who read it felt the undertow. This wasn't ordinary surveillance. This was the kind of assignment whispered between clearances, where failure doesn't mean paperwork, but consequences no one dares name. Entire sub-units were restructured to monitor you. Analysts who'd spent careers in counterintelligence were rotated into your orbit, told nothing except that your movements mattered more than entire operations overseas. You weren't on their radar, you'd become their axis. What unnerved them most wasn't what you'd done, but what you hadn't. No scandals, no obvious crimes, no ego trails to exploit. Just a pattern of decisions that made their usual tactics useless. They couldn't bait you with incentives. They couldn't box you in with fear. They couldn't predict your next move, because you didn't move like someone chasing safety or power. You moved like someone building an unseen architecture of influence, step by step, without needing applause or permission. The profile said, civilian, but the evidence whispered, operator. Only there was no handler, no sponsor, no explanation. You had become the handler and the sponsor, moving through channels they didn't even know existed. When they tried psychological profiling, the software cracked. Algorithms fed with your data produced reports that contradicted themselves in the same paragraph. Low risk flipped to critical threat in a single refresh. Analysts began arguing in hallways, not about your motives, but about whether you were even playing the same game they were trained for. Someone finally said out loud what everyone was thinking. This isn't a person of interest. This is an unknown variable inside our own perimeter. Heads turned, doors closed, budgets shifted. Your file stopped being an object of study and became a kind of containment field. What they didn't expect was how quickly you sensed the shift. You moved differently, but without panic. You adjusted routes. You changed patterns, not to hide, but to teach. Every step became a demonstration that you knew exactly how deep they were. Each quiet detour Each unannounced appearance, each unexpected pause was a message. I see you seeing me. In their sealed briefing rooms, this unnerved them more than anything you'd actually done. You weren't running. You weren't hiding. You were behaving as if you'd already read their orders before they were written. At night, in rooms lit only by screens, junior analysts scrolled through your life trying to find a weakness, some small detail they could use to reduce you to a case file. But each time they thought they'd found one, it turned into something else. A proof of discipline, a clue to a larger pattern, a doorway to another layer. People in your orbit weren't just random acquaintances. They were nodes. Places you went weren't just locations. They were signals. Choices you made weren't just survival. They were strategic instructions disguised as routine. It began to dawn on them that the person they were surveilling was running a counter-surveillance of their entire department. Without any equipment, without any staff, just precision and presence. Someone high up started redacting pages in your file, not to protect you, but to protect the readers. There were notes about psychological bleed and operational exposure, terms normally reserved for deep cover assets. Yet you were none of these things. You had simply lived in a way that outpaced their categories. They couldn't control you without understanding you, and they couldn't understand you without becoming like you. It was a paradox that threatened the hierarchy itself. They were watching you, but the act of watching was changing them, bending them toward questions their training never prepared them to ask. As the weeks went on, small tremors appeared inside the department. Analysts who'd never missed a day started taking leave. Briefings turned into arguments. Data stopped lining up with predictions. It was as if your presence in their files had warped their entire sense of control. Senior officials issued stricter orders. No interpretation. Just observation. But observation without interpretation is blindness, and blindness breeds fear. The more they watched, the less they knew. The less they knew, the more dangerous you looked. And still you didn't flinch. Your moves became quieter, sharper, stripped of anything unnecessary. You weren't reacting to their gaze. You were shaping it. Each public step you took seemed designed to overload their tracking. Each private step disappeared like a shadow in a mirror. People started whispering that you weren't just eluding them, you were teaching them. Teaching them how small their world had become. Teaching them how surveillance can backfire when the subject is not a subject, but a mirror, held to their own intentions. This is why the memo went out under heavier encryption. This is why the phrase, specific instructions, appeared in bold. They weren't just told to watch. They were told to prepare for what they might discover. Because what they'd already found in your life files had shaken entire offices. People who prided themselves on predicting outcomes were confronted with a presence that bent outcomes around it. They began to suspect that your influence wasn't just the sum of your actions, but something more like an unseen field, subtle, distributed, yet unmistakably powerful. You can feel it now, can't you? Not paranoia, but pressure. The subtle weight of eyes that have no faces, the hum of networks adjusting themselves around your choices. It's not because you broke any law, it's because you broke their map. And when a map breaks, the ones holding it have to decide whether to redraw it or follow you into territory they've never charted. That's the real reason you're under watch. You've become a test no algorithm can pass. A question no manual can answer. A path no agency can predict without losing the illusion of control. And as this first chapter closes, the tension tightens, not as an ending but as a hinge. Somewhere right now, in a windowless room, an analyst is staring at your file, feeling the first tremor of doubt that this is just another assignment. The next directive is being drafted. The next move is being debated, because the closer they watch you, the more they risk seeing something in themselves they were trained never to acknowledge. And you, walking through your day as if nothing has shifted, already know. The observation isn't the story. It's just the opening move in something larger, something approaching from the edge of their comprehension, about to make its presence undeniable. That presence arrives like pressure without sound, an invisible countdown that changes the air in their office. Each keystroke on their laptops feels heavier. Each whispered update over secure channels feels less like analysis and more like confession. What began as surveillance has mutated into a mirror. They aren't simply studying you anymore. They are being studied by their own fear. In that windowless room, the analyst's eyes flicker between your movements on their screens and the reflection of themselves in the black glass. One leans closer to the feet of you, walking down a street, not because you're doing anything unusual, but because the ordinary way you move seems orchestrated, like a code embedded in gestures. Another scrolls through years of digital traces, messages, ticket stubs, small purchases, searching for the flaw that will reduce you to something manageable. But instead of flaws, they keep finding patterns of control, conversations that turn into catalysts, encounters that later shift power, routines that disguise transformations. They start to notice that each time you change direction in life, something significant collapses somewhere else. Their screens fill with time-stamped coincidences until the coincidences look like strategy. A senior officer enters quietly, eyes scanning the monitors, jaw tight. She doesn't ask for reports. She already knows the numbers won't explain anything. She's been at this long enough to sense when a file stops being a file and starts being an event. She glances at the red tag on your dossier. Watch closely. The words look sterile on the surface, but everyone in the room can feel the subtext. This isn't about catching someone. This is about understanding something before it outruns the institution built to control it. She watches a clip of you at a train station, hands in pockets, head slightly tilted, waiting. A simple scene. Yet the timestamp on the clip corresponds to a shift in a foreign intelligence operation thousands of miles away. It's as if your presence writes footnotes into other people's history. Outside the walls of that room, other departments whisper about the same file. People who've never spoken your name now lower their voices when it comes up. Briefings circulate with entire pages blacked out. Your file is no longer just a record. It's a tremor moving through the architecture of their control. The question isn't whether you're dangerous. The question is what kind of danger you represent. The obvious answer, criminal, spy, defector, doesn't fit. You don't take orders. You don't cash favors. You don't align with any flag. You are the kind of phenomenon that can't be owned. And what can't be owned terrifies them more than any weapon. Meanwhile, you continue walking through your day, each step precise, each decision silent but deliberate. You've already sensed the eyes. You've felt the temperature shifts, the quiet cars parked at the edge of streets, the subtle delays in your communications, the way certain strangers hesitate before approaching. It's not paranoia. It's pattern recognition honed by years of discipline. You move not to hide, but to reveal. Each turn you take is a test. How quickly do they adjust? Each new connection you make is a signal. How far does their reach extend? You're not running from their observation. You're mapping it, measuring it, learning the shape of the net they're casting, so you can walk through it without being caught. Back in the operations center, the analysts try a new approach. They run your data through predictive modeling, hoping to anticipate your next move. The output comes back blank, then reprocesses, then spits out something they've never seen before. No prediction, only reflection. The program begins generating reports about its own limitations rather than about you. A junior analyst mutters that you're bending the algorithm, but everyone in the room hears the truth beneath the joke. The act of trying to predict you has corrupted their own tools. The senior officer orders them to shut down the model and go back to manual observation. But manual observation is slower, and you're not slowing down. The file grows heavier. New entries describe encounters they can't explain. A meeting you had with a retired diplomat whose notes later spark a covert policy shift. A night in a small coastal town where a security detail noticed lights on in a building hours before a data center crash on another continent. Each incident alone is nothing. Together they form a pattern of disruptions, like invisible fingerprints on the edges of history. Someone prints out the list of these coincidences and tapes it to the wall. It looks like a map of pressure points across the world, and in the center of it all is you, moving calmly, as though unaware of the tremors you cause. You're aware, more than aware. You've learned that the gaze of an institution can be turned into a tool. When they watch you, they reveal themselves, their methods, their hierarchies, their fears. You feed them what you choose. A gesture here, a delay there, a conversation placed like a stone in a river. Their tracking systems are supposed to reduce you to a pattern, but instead your pattern is reducing them. They think they're closing in. In truth, they're opening up, exposing channels and weaknesses you could never have mapped otherwise. The act of being watched has become your way of watching them. Inside the agency, morale starts to fracture. People who once believed in the infallibility of their mission now stare at your file and feel vertigo. They realize they're not just documenting a person, they're documenting a shift in what a person can be. One analyst writes in a private note that watching you feels like standing at the edge of something too large to name. Another starts avoiding eye contact with your footage altogether. The senior officer notices but says nothing. She knows the problem isn't you. The problem is what you represent. A human operating beyond the assumptions that hold their entire structure together. The instructions become stricter. No speculation, just facts. But facts without interpretation are empty, and empty observation turns into obsession. They double the shifts, increase the funding, bring in outside consultants. Yet every escalation only deepens the paradox. The more resources they pour into watching you, the more your influence spreads like an unseen current. It's not that you're evading them, it's that their act of watching you has made you larger than the frame they built. And you, moving through your day, feel the hinge turning. You sense the invisible audience, but instead of shrinking under it, you expand. Each morning, you rise with the knowledge that their attention is no longer a threat, but a stage. Every interaction, every choice, every pause becomes an opportunity to broadcast a lesson they don't realize they're learning. You aren't just the subject of surveillance, you're the teacher of surveillance, turning their tools into your classroom. In the windowless room, the senior officer scrolls to the earliest entries in your file. She notices that from the beginning, long before the official directive, you'd been living as if you knew this moment would come. Not as paranoia, but as preparation. She closes the file and sits back, realizing that the order to watch closely came too late. You've already adapted to their observation, already built your life to turn their scrutiny into fuel. She feels a flicker of respect, then fear, because she understands now that the file is not just a record of what you've done. It's a preview of what you're about to do. Across the agency, your name triggers new protocols, meetings behind closed doors, special clearances, discussions about containment rather than investigation. But containment implies a boundary, and boundaries imply a shape. You have no shape they can define. You move like water through their categories, not to escape, but to reshape the channels themselves. They can't decide if you're a threat or a revelation. They only know that what they've discovered in your life files has shaken the foundation of their confidence. People who used to sleep easily now wake at night thinking about your name. And you keep moving, not faster, not slower, just steady, like a force that knows timing better than they know urgency. You don't need to fight their observation. You only need to keep living in a way that makes their observation useless. Each act of discipline you perform is a signal to yourself. They may have eyes, but they don't have access to your will. Each decision you make reinforces the lesson. Surveillance can capture motion, but not intention. And intention is where power lives. The senior officer finally calls a meeting. She tells her team to stop trying to predict you and start trying to understand the pattern they're part of. It's a dangerous admission, acknowledging that you are not inside their frame, but that they are inside yours. Some of them resist. Others nod slowly, as if they've known it all along. She closes the meeting with a line that isn't in any manual. The longer we watch, the more this becomes about us. Outside that room, in a quiet corridor, a junior analyst leans against the wall, eyes closed, trying to slow their breathing. They've spent weeks immersed in your file, and now feel as though they're being seen from the other side. They open their eyes and stare at the badge clipped to their shirt. For the first time, the badge feels like a mark of vulnerability rather than authority. They whisper your name once, like a test, and feel the weight of it echo back. You keep moving. You've built your life on the principle that the more closely they watch, the more clearly they reveal themselves. You don't need to break into their walls. Their eyes carry the information out to you. You don't need to challenge their power. Their obsession erodes it from within. Every glance, every note, every update they make about you is another thread in a web they're weaving around themselves. And as they tighten it, you remain at the center, untouched, teaching them the cost of curiosity without understanding. Now the file is more than a file. It's a symbol circulating through halls of authority, a reminder that there are still people who live beyond the reach of prediction. You've turned their directive into a dialogue, their observation into exposure. What they discovered in your life files has not just shaken the department, it has begun to remake it. People are questioning their methods, their goals, even their assumptions about what human potential looks like. They wanted to classify you. Instead, they're confronting the limits of their own classification. And you, walking calmly, understand the next phase is approaching. The gaze is intensifying, but with each degree of intensity, it loses clarity. They think they're narrowing in on you, In reality, they're blinding themselves. You've built your moves so that the closer they look, the less they see. You've turned observation into misdirection, misdirection into revelation, revelation into leverage. The moment is coming when their surveillance will reach its peak. And at that peak, they'll realize they haven't been documenting you. They've been documenting their own unraveling. You can feel it in the air now, the way a room feels before a truth is spoken out loud. You walk through a crowd, eyes forward, knowing somewhere behind a screen someone is watching, trying to make sense of the shape you leave in the world. They don't yet understand that the shape isn't you. It's the outline of their own limits. And as you turn a corner, disappearing from one camera feed and appearing on another, the entire network pulses with a quiet panic. Because for the first time, they're starting to suspect the unthinkable, that the directive to watch closely was never about protecting them from you. It was about revealing them to themselves. And now, that revelation has begun. The longer they stare at your movements, the more their own reflection stares back. They're not merely surveilling a person anymore. They're staring into the consequences of a machine built to control what it cannot understand. Each keystroke, each whispered update, each secure briefing has become a confession that the framework they built is cracking under the weight of its own contradictions. You didn't infiltrate their walls. They invited you in by their obsession. Inside the agency's nerve center, the tension has matured into fracture. Analysts avoid looking at each other as they track your steps. Screens flicker, servers lag, encrypted channels clog with requests for clarity no one can provide. A junior operative notices something alarming. The more closely they document you, the more unpredictable their own systems become. Scheduled tasks fail. Predictive models crash. Data that once obeyed commands now loops, doubles, rearranges itself. He mentions it to his supervisor, who waves it off as coincidence. But in the silence of his own thoughts, he knows better. The act of focusing on you is disrupting them. The observation has become a feedback loop, each glance feeding a current they can't contain. It isn't magic, it's exposure. Their obsession with your file has left them open, vulnerable, brittle, and you continue moving through your day with the same discipline you always have. No drama. At the top level, senior officials gather in a sealed conference room. The walls hum with shielding technology. Laptops are banned, phones confiscated. They've convened not to brief, but to confess. They pass around a printed copy of your life file, thick, heavy, marked with codes they barely understand. They speak in low voices about the patterns they've seen, the collapses that follow your path, the shifts that coincide with your choices. Someone dares to voice what the others have been avoiding. We don't have a person under watch. We have a catalyst. The word hangs in the air like a spark. No one moves. Because admitting that changes everything. It means the directive was never about preventing you. It was about containing the transformation you embody. But transformations don't fit in folders. They bleed into the hands that hold them. Meanwhile, you continue your work in plain sight. You shake a hand. You step into a quiet room. You send a single message. Each action seems trivial, but behind the screens of the agency, each action detonates a new round of analysis. They flood your movements with algorithms, trying to predict what will happen next. But prediction requires a past to anchor itself, and you've outlived the past they built for you. Their software outputs blank pages. Their maps dissolve into scattered points. Every frame of footage becomes less about capturing you and more about revealing how blind they've become. You aren't just walking through their surveillance, you're walking them into their own blind spot. Inside the nerve center, morale collapses. Analysts resign. Contractors refuse assignments. People whisper about burnout, but what they're really feeling is vertigo. They came to watch you, and now they feel watched. They came to define you, and now they're defined by your shadow. The senior officer tries to rally them, telling them this is just another assignment, but her voice cracks. She knows the truth. What they discovered in your life files hasn't just shaken the department. It's altered the gravitational pull inside the agency itself. Protocols feel brittle. Certainties dissolve. Even the badge on her chest feels like a relic from a past that no longer exists. You, however, remain steady. Each morning, you rise with the same calm. Each evening, you leave no trace but the one you choose. You understand something they still refuse to say aloud. The power of being watched without surrendering your will. The power of living so precisely that surveillance turns into a mirror. You've turned their gaze into a resource, their resources into a conduit, their secrecy into exposure. They wanted to see you clearly. Instead, they've seen themselves. That was always the real directive hidden behind the words, "Watch closely." Someone far above them, someone whose name they'll never know, wanted to know not who you are, but who they are when faced with someone like you. In that sealed conference room, the senior officials reach the final stage of recognition. One says, "We can't stop this by watching." Another says, "We can't classify what doesn't fit." A third finally whispers, "We were never tracking a subject. We were tracking our own collapse." The admission is quiet, but it ripples through every layer of their structure. They realize the file they hold isn't an indictment. It's a mirror. It's a record of their failure to imagine a person who moves beyond their boundaries. And in that realization, the real shaking begins. Not in the hallways or the servers, but in the minds of the people who built their careers on control. You step outside into the evening light. No one would know from looking at you that an entire department is unraveling behind sealed doors because of a file with your name on it. You don't rush. You don't posture. You simply walk, eyes forward, the same way you always have. Because you know the truth. Power isn't in avoiding their gaze. Power is in making their gaze show them what they are. Each movement you make is a statement without words. Each day you live is a lesson they didn't sign up to learn. This is why the directive was issued. This is why the file grew heavier. This is why entire chains of command are trembling over a life they can't categorize. At last, the network begins to falter. Surveillance feeds go dark. Data stops syncing. The final reports come back incomplete. The very act of trying to understand you has short-circuited their ability to manage anything else. They don't even know whether to call it a failure or a breakthrough. All they know is that their world feels different now, as if a line has been crossed that can't be uncrossed. And you, walking through the city at dusk, feel the hinge swing open. What began as observation has become revelation. What began as control has become exposure. What began as their attempt to hold you has turned into your quiet way of holding a mirror to their face. Somewhere, a last memo is drafted, but never sent. It contains no instructions, no analysis, just a single line. What we discovered in the file was not about him. It was about us. It will be sealed and forgotten, but the people who wrote it will remember. They'll remember the tremor in their hands as they typed it. They'll remember how watching you changed them. They'll remember how the file became a doorway they couldn't close. And you will keep moving, not as a fugitive, not as a spectacle, but as the living proof that some lives can't be reduced to reports. And as the sun drops below the horizon, you slip from one camera feed into another, and then into none at all. Not because you're hiding, but because you've outgrown the frame they built. You leave behind no trace but a question they will wrestle with for years. How did one person, living openly, dismantle their certainty without lifting a hand? That question will echo through their halls long after the file gathers dust. Because what they discovered in your life files didn't just shake the CIA department, it shattered their conviction that they were the ones holding the lens. And that, more than anything else, was the lesson you came to deliver without ever saying a word.